Hey everybody, it's Mike Young, lifestyle nutritionist with aPlantBasedDiet.org. Welcome to chapter 121 of my book, Live to 150. And it is really great that you're here because, like I've mentioned in the previous couple of chapters, you are really hardcore about this. You really want to get this done. And it is very motivating to me to know that you're here. So if you are, please smash the like button because that's going to help get this out and get the word out that you're watching this and that tell YouTube that you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for being here. This is a very important chapter that I've alluded to in the last few chapters about growing your own food. Now, the basis for this is, I say, there's a couple things that go into the basis of growing your own food. Number one is, of course, it's plants. Plants grow. We've talked about before, we want the plants to grow outdoors in real soil and real sunlight, that kind of stuff. And when you buy the plants at the store, you don't know how old they are. You don't know when they were picked. And we've talked about the concept earlier in the book, how it's important that you eat the food as quickly as you can after it's picked. And of course, you don't know if it's truly organic or chemical free. The only way you're going to know all these things, besides just taking somebody's word for it, is if you're growing it yourself. And ideally, this chapter may actually make you rethink the idea of where you live. And that's okay. Not all places, like if you follow along with the different precepts and the different philosophies that I'm describing here in this book, you're going to understand that maybe humans were meant to live, in the closer to the equator, because when you get further away, it's harder and harder to get this stuff done unless you're drying out all your plants or dehydrating them or preserving them in some way, because we want to eat them fresh if possible. And as fresh, as close to picking them right off the plant, food is grown as possible. So I get my notes here. I got to have a lot of stuff to kind of dive in this chapter. So real sunlight, real soil. First of all, you don't know. You don't know the condition of the soil that your plants are being grown in. The only way you're going to know is if you're growing it yourself. And ideally, it's organic and chemical free, as we talked about in previous chapters. We also want you to get the most nutrient content out. So aside from growing it in really good soil and growing it outdoors in the actual sunlight, we have a chapter on the sun. It's the most powerful thing out there. There's nothing more powerful. You're going to harness the energy and power of the sun when you grow your plants outdoors and when you grow them organically without chemicals. And also another level to this is that the food was actually ripened on the plant, because did you know that, with tomatoes, they don't ripen them on the plant if you're buying them in the grocery store. If you have a local farmer's market, you can find somebody that does chemical-free and organic, and they ripen them on the plant, get them from them. They're so much different and better. I never used to like tomatoes when I was growing up. I liked, the pasta sauces that they were kind of, processed tomatoes. I think it's because I never really had any good tomatoes, even though I used to grow them too, but I didn't use organic methods. When you do it right, and you pick it right off the plant, it is so good. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of folks are turned off from fruits and vegetables. And by the way, tomatoes are fruit. It's because they are not grown properly. They're not grown nearby. They're not local. And they're not picked when they're actually red, like a tomato on the plant. They're green, and then they gas them. They gas a lot of the bananas too. They pick the bananas green because they have to transport them. Even the pineapples that you get at the store, they don't really ripen once you get it off the plant. They'll start to rot and they'll start to turn sweet, but it's not the same as growing a pineapple right next to you on your own land outdoors and watching that thing turn almost a yellow golden color and then eating it. There's nothing like that. And that's what we want you to have, because that's where all the life force and the nutrition is. So growing it in real organic soil, real sun, actual rainfall. I know that a lot of places the rainfall is not good, but again, go back to actually, if not all the places, it's still better than what they're piping in your pipes, okay? Or if you can get well water, that's a good quality, you can use that. But the plant needs to process the water. You shouldn't really be drinking straight water. I rarely drink straight water anymore because I'm getting so hydrated from the plants. You got to get all that hydration and water in the plants, because the plants will process that. And go back to my chapter on water, and they will optimize that water for you. So let the plants do all the work. The actual living plants, not the water treatment plant. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, so real sun, real soil, best. Okay, so the ultimate setup is basically at your own house, in your own yard. Now, if you're growing your own food, you're going to also want to put up some fencing, because in almost all places that can grow food, unless you're in a really urban environment, you're going to have animals. Actually, even in an urban environment, you have stray cats and dogs and all kinds of other stuff. So You got to get this stuff fenced out. You got to make sure you have good soil. The areas don't flood, but you also need to irrigate during the dry times. Don't use chemical fertilizers. Don't use pesticides, herbicides. Don't use any chemicals at all. This is what you want to do with growing your own food. Now, a lot of this, you may say, well, Mike, how the hell am I going to do all this? This is a lot to learn. I got a lawn service. I don't want anything to look different. And well, we talked about getting rid of your lawns in a previous chapter. Giving up the American dream was another chapter. Go back to those to learn more about that. But I would say that's okay. You can still join some intentional communities. We're involved in some intentional communities right now in Ecuador, which is very close to the equator. That's why they call it Ecuador. And the names of those are Terra Frutis. You can look that up online, or Fruit Haven, either one of those. You can find out more. Those are people that are trying to live mostly organic, mostly raw, mostly fruitarian. Of course, all plants, growing the plants in a place that you can actually afford, and where others are doing it. A community of people that are doing this, like-minded people. It's a private community. You have to be accepted. They're not going to take just everybody. Actually, we're going through somebody right now. Doing something. That's my stomach growling. That means I'm in the healing mode. So it means that also, sorry, with these communities, we're going through and we're checking them out because we want to make sure that we really truly get like minds in the community. So, I talked about the power of the sun, harnessing the energy. Yeah, that's basically it. So in order for all this to happen, like I said, if you're watching this, you may have never had really good produce. That may be one of the reasons why you don't like it. Like I said, I think with me, that was the case. I'm so sensitive to different things. Even when I was growing stuff myself, like in late elementary school and middle school, I had gardens. I wasn't doing it right. I was not using organic methods. People weren't really talking about that. And maybe that's why I didn't like the stuff. I was spraying the plants with different things and I wasn't eating them. It's like when a chef doesn't eat what they cook, you kind of wonder, and I guess I was kind of wondering too, but there is a way to do this right. All the stuff, there's a way to do it right. And if you know of other stuff that I haven't mentioned here in this chapter, please let me know in the comments. If you know of other like intentional communities or good places to live, or what do you do in a cold climate? What do you do if you're like in the Rust Belt of the United States? How do you handle this stuff? What are you going to do? Because like we talked about, yes, you can do indoor vertical farms, and we're very glad that these are coming out now, but they're not going to be the same as, as what I think humans really need. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. It's kind of like, I don't know. We don't even know enough. There hasn't been vertical farms for that long. So it's like saying, well, what about plant-based meats? Well, we know they're nutritionally not the same and they're not ideal. They're not health optimizing, but what the long-term effects, we don't know about that either. But at least it's a step in the right direction. But let us know if you really want to go all out, you're thinking about going all out and growing your own food, or you've done it in the past, or you have some tips, please leave those below in the comments. Also, again, like the video. If you didn't hear me in the beginning, please just smash the like button. Like it, help us out, because it'll kind of echo that across social media and the YouTube algorithm, and it'll know that you want to see more videos like this, and it'll also know to place this in front of other people, because this stuff's important. And I do believe that it's only a matter of time until this is all adopted by people. But we're just in this time right now where we're way in advance of the tipping point. We're still, a lot of times I say stuff to people and they just look at you like you are literally from another planet, because it's so much different than what most people are doing. But that would be okay. I wouldn't necessarily have to say anything about it. But the problem is that what most people are doing is just flat out wrong, and it's very, very harmful. That's the issue here. And it also takes away from quality of life in a dramatically negative way. It takes away from quality of life. So like the video, and of course subscribe so you hear about the next chapter. We'll see you in the next chapter. Bye-bye.